morning runners, and welcome back to another video from me, That Running Girl. In today's video I'm going to be talking about why the first mile of your race is so important in determining how successful your race is and how probable it is that you will run the kind of time that you want to run, and how likely it is that you will have a race that you're comfortable with. Now, I speak from a lot of experience in this area. Usually my first mile from 5k to marathon is my fastest mile, and I nearly always pay for it. Now I say I nearly always pay for it. This has and has not worked out for me, and it's just something that I have done for a long time racing. I don't know whether it's because of the adrenaline build up, like, you know, when I'm first setting off in a race, I'm so excited and I'm so kind of nervous, and all this kind of anxious energy is just building up, and I just end up running my first mile, the fastest mile. For example, when I ran a 1:28 half, which is still my PB from 2000 and I think it was 2014 or 2013, so a few years ago now, I think my first mile was like 5:44 or something ridiculous. So obviously it did work out on that day, because I do feel like sometimes if you run the first mile fast, it kind of sets your body up for a familiarity in fast miles. So it's almost like when you run the first mile fast, you're then kind of setting the pace for the rest of the race. But obviously I wasn't running then 5:40s for the rest of the race, but my body was kind of conditioned to be running at that fast level, if you see what I mean. But it can also backfire on you, because, which I will talk about on my race in Sunday, which is the example I'm going to use for this video. But it can backfire and work the other way. So for example, if you run your first mile really fast at the start of a race and you can't sustain that pace, then it means that everything else is going to be slower, and you might end up burning out, and you might end up hitting the wall, or you might end up, you know, not running a good time, or not running the kind of position that you want to run, and not having a comfortable run. And let's be honest, it's really, really hard when you don't have a comfortable race, and not only does it feel really bad at the time, but it can also feel really bad afterwards, and you're left thinking, you know, really questioning yourself and thinking, oh, what did I do wrong? Why did I do this wrong? You know, why did I do this? Why did I do that? And you're beating yourself up about it. And then it can also kind of lead into a bit of a fear on your next race, with you thinking, oh no, am I going to, you know, make those same mistakes again? Am I going to do the same thing again? So I just wanted to take you through the race that I did on Sunday, because I raced a 15-mile hilly race on Sunday, which I ran in 1:50, and I was 9th woman overall. Now the conditions on Sunday were really, really, really bad. It was really, really, really windy, and the course is probably the second hilliest race that I have done in like 10 years of running. I'd say it's close to Cotswold Marathon, which is a really, really hilly race that I've done too. But I wanted to use this race as an example, because I didn't go off too fast in the first mile, but I did go off way too fast between 3 and 4, which is still really early on in a long 15-mile race. And I'll tell you the reasons for that in a minute. And it basically just ruined my entire race. It meant that by the end of the run, there's several hills in this race. The races in this race were 1.5 miles in, 7 or 8 miles in, and 11 miles in, and I think 5 miles in. But so you had to really be running like consistently and kind of keeping within your comfort zone. You couldn't, there's not really any time to kind of, you know, speed up and go really fast and really hard, because you've got like steady climbs all the way through the race. And so when I was running, I'll show you the stats in a minute, but when I was running much quicker between the early miles, that really, really screwed the rest of my race, and it meant that I just completely burned out. And the lactic acid, which is what builds up in your muscles when you're running really, really hard, it just crept up on me, and my legs just completely fell apart. It felt like my legs were set in cement. I had to actually like power walk some of the last hills, and people were overtaking me that I was thinking they shouldn't be overtaking me, but I just had to let them go because I just had nothing left, and it was a real struggle for me to finish that race, but I did finish it because I'm not someone who quits. Hello. I'm not someone who quits ever. I'm not going to say I'm not someone who quits easily, because I don't quit. If I enter a race, I'm finishing that race, whatever it takes to finish it. But it was frustrating because I was 4 minutes slower than my best time on that course. Like I said though, the wind and the elements on the day had a lot to do with it. A lot of the much faster runners, you know, the people who were like top 5 runners in that race, top 5 men, not women, they were saying like the wind added about 3 minutes to their time. So I think realistically, to run 150 and still be 9th woman overall in a top 10, you know, in a really hard race, I think was still good going. But I just wanted to help you learn from my mistakes, basically. So I'll just show you the medal that I got. These are the 3 medals that I got in my recent races. I don't know whether I've shown you these actually. Oh, by the way, I haven't got running stuff on at the moment because I ran 7 miles this morning and it was really, really, really raining and wet. And so when I got back, I had to jump in the shower because I was just so cold. So I had to like get dressed in normal clothes. So then I've spent the rest of the day thinking, like, what am I going to do today? Because I haven't got any work on today. And when I've been running, and then I haven't got work on, and then I'm just like thinking, what am I going to do? Should I go back out running? But then I think no, because then that'll mess up my running for tomorrow. But anyway, so this is from the MK Half Marathon, which I ran a few weeks ago. This one is from the Wiltshire 10. I think I've shown you these, but you can see them again. Wiltshire 10 a few weeks ago. And this one is from the Bramley 20 mile a few weeks ago. Right, I will take you through my stats for the Banbury 15 mile race now, and I will show you exactly what I mean about running the first few miles too fast and how that can destroy your race. Right. Focus, focus, focus. First of all, let me show you the hill profile for this race. Whoa, check that out. So the blue line is the hill profile and the green line is my pace. So as you can see, there's the first big hill at 1.5 miles. Few hills, probably about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's the big hill at 11. And then all the way along to 15, it just is relentless. It just keeps going. You see those massive big blue hills. As you can see there, 364 feet elevation. Oh no. Oh yeah. Yeah, that. No, that's not, is that, have I got that right? Yeah, no, sorry, I was pinpointing one of the hills. 654 feet elevation. 654 feet! That is insane. So there is the 15 miles, there is my average pace, 7.23 minute mile, and there is my time. Right, now let's look on the stats. So this is really interesting. So if you look at my splits here, as you can see, if we look at all the splits, as you can see, the first mile, I didn't go off way too fast. So the first mile, 7 minutes, 12 seconds. Second mile, 7 minutes, 13 seconds. All very good and consistent. Third mile, 7:07, not too bad. Fourth mile, 6 minutes, 44 seconds. What the hell was I playing at? Fifth mile, 7:01, 7:02, 7:09, 7:04. Ninth mile, 8:03. So as you can see here, I completely died around the 8 or 9 mile mark, and then it just goes from bad to worse. Look at this. This is just shameful now. 8:39. I think that's when I was like walking up the hill. So as you can see, I kind of pulled it back around for the 15th mile, but as you can see, the 15th mile and the 12th mile, or everything basically after 8 miles, which is terrible. And this is because between 3, 4 and 5, I will sit you back down to talk through this because you will need to understand. Ooh. There we are. Oh, am I in? Am I in? I think I'm going to edit this. So as you can see there, I really screwed the race up between 3 and 5 miles, and that is because I was trying to keep with a woman and a bloke from my track session. The woman wasn't from my track session, but the bloke was. And the woman wasn't someone that I knew, like she wasn't a runner from round by me locally, so I didn't know who she was, which is always risky. Because when you're trying to keep with someone, you don't know their kind of abilities and you don't know what kind of pace they're capable of running. It's really difficult because, you know, you just don't know what they're capable of. And it's tough also when you've run a race for a number of years, because that's quite a local race to me and it's only a few miles away from where I grew up. So I always feel like I have to kind of do well at that race because it's like one of my kind of home races kind of thing. And because I have run 1:46 on that course before, my times on that course, I think I've run 1:46, 1:47, 1:49, and I ran 1:50 on Sunday. So I always feel like I should be running those times. And so basically, to jump from like 7:13 to 6:44, when I was going up one of the biggest hills, like, how stupid was that realistically? Because not only did she get away from me in the end, because she was faster than me, she ended up running like 3 minutes quicker than me. So it's obvious that she was faster than me on the day. And it did nothing but completely ruin my race because I was trying to keep with her. And the only reason I was trying to keep with her was because at the time, I think she was 3rd senior and I was 4th senior. And in that race, there were prizes for 1st, 2nd and 3rd senior. And aside from, I think, when I ran that race for the first time in 1:49, I think I've always got a prize at that race. So, and also my mum was at the finish, so I was thinking, oh, like, how nice would it be for my mum to see me get a prize at the finish, even though she saw me get a prize last year. And I was just kind of thinking, you know, I was a bit in the kind of egotistical, you know, I can't let her beat me, I have to get a prize, I have to be 3rd senior. And as I've said before, when you're 4th, it's the absolute worst because you're just out of everything, out of the prizes, out of like 1, 2, 3, and you just end up feeling like, you know, if I'm 4th, I might as well be 40th. So it was really, really, really tough. But in the end, I just had to let her go because realistically, like I said, she was quicker than me on the day. And I did end up completely ruining my whole race because of that. It caught up with me a few miles later at 8 or 9 mile mark. And when it did catch up with me, like I said, my legs were just cement. I had nothing left to give. There were people overtaking me on really big hills and I was just gone. I just had nothing left. And it was such a horrible situation to be in because at that kind of situation, it's not like you can just cruise to the finish because it's such a hard hilly race. You still have a lot of climbing to do. You still have a lot of effort to put in. You still have a lot of endurance and a lot of things to sort of get past until you get to the finish. And it was equally tough for me because the last mile is down quite an exposed road, and on each side of the road is like a big motorway. There's a motorway bridge, so each side there's like a big kind of motorway with like traffic, which is really, really, really loud. So with my sort of sensitive hearing, I was just going over the bridge like, oh, like shut up, shut up, shut up. So that's another sort of tough thing for me in races, and that was tough in the last mile, but I just stuck it out and I just, you know, I was going through every positive, like motivational running mantra in my head, like all the kind of things you see on Instagram, like, you know, if you're going through hell, keep going, and when you think about quitting, think about why you started and all those kind of things, and just one step in front of the other, and, you know, every kind of like motivational quote you can think of was going through my head. But I just wanted to share that with you because I do think it's really important, as I'm sort of, now that I've had a lot of race experience, it is so important to get the first few miles right, because races that I've run when I have got the first few miles right and I haven't done anything stupid in the first kind of 5 miles, I've just had such better races. And there's nothing better when you're like confident midway through a long race and then you can pick the pace up. That is what I did at the Abingdon Marathon last year in October when I ran 3:17. And from about the 15 mile point, I felt like I was just cruising. I felt like I was just jogging, and I felt like I could really pick up the pace and I could really like hit it like after sort of, you know, 18, 19 miles and I still had like fuel in the tank, which is always what you want, unless you're running anything like a 5k or a 10k when it's all out from like the get-go, from the start gun. You really have to have that kind of conservative energy and conservative pace from the start if you want to succeed in the longer races. So anyway, I hope you found that helpful. It has certainly got it off my chest, and I hope you're all running well. My next race is probably going to be the Carterton 10k, which is where I live now, in Oxfordshire, and I will let you know how I get on with that. I'm still feeling my legs are really, really stiff, so I'm just kind of taking it easy, well, for me, this week, and might swim, have a bit of a swim tomorrow night, or maybe the night after. And I will keep you updated with everything, all my races and everything. My next video, not sure what it's going to be yet. A few different people have asked me for one talking about what I eat before I go running, so I might make one on that, because I tend to eat mainly breakfast foods before I run, and then I will eat lunch like later, like after I've run, and then it can be a bit late though when I'm eating lunch. So I know that's not going to suit everyone's schedule, but it might be helpful to know what kind of foods I'm eating before I run that don't like mess up my stomach and might not mess up your stomach. Anyway, I hope you're all running well. Remember to follow me on Instagram. I will post the link here, and I will see you in my next video.